At 2:30 hours on October 15, 2019, 8 Navy SEALs from the legendary Red Squadron emerged from the freezing waters of the Sea of Japan, 200 meters from North Korean soil. What happened in the next 47 minutes would never officially exist. Senior Chief Petty Officer Marcus Ghost Rodriguez had completed 127 classified missions in his 14-year career with Navy SEAL Team 6. But as he adjusted his night vision goggles on the North Korean coastline, he knew this one was different. The mission briefing had come directly from the White House, bypassing normal congressional oversight, and the target was the most dangerous leader on the planet. Hey, elite warriors. Before we dive into this classified true story that governments don't want you to know, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell. This SEAL Team 6 operation will expose secrets that could change international relations forever. The 8-man Red Squadron team had been training for this operation for 6 months at a classified facility in Nevada that perfectly replicated North Korean coastal defenses. Their mission: infiltrate the Hermit Kingdom's most secure communication facility and plant advanced NSA surveillance equipment that would allow the United States to monitor Kim Jong-un's personal communications in real time. What they didn't know was that this mission would go catastrophically wrong in ways that would force the Pentagon to deny its existence for years to come. But the most shocking revelation was that someone had already betrayed their position before they even reached the shore. Ghost's team consisted of the most elite warriors America had ever produced. These were the same operators who had eliminated Osama bin Laden, rescued hostages from impossible situations, and conducted operations so classified that even their families didn't know they existed. Lieutenant Commander Jake Viper Thompson was the team leader, a 12-year veteran with a master's degree in international relations and the ability to speak fluent Mandarin and Korean. Petty Officer First Class David Reaper Martinez was their sniper, with 89 confirmed kills across 4 continents. Chief Petty Officer Ryan Phantom O'Brien handled explosives and electronic warfare. The rest of the team, Calcine's Wolf, Hawk, Shadow, and Blade, represented the pinnacle of special operations training. They had approached the North Korean coast using a classified submarine that officially didn't exist, swimming the final 2 miles underwater with rebreathers that would leave no trace of their presence. The surveillance equipment they carried was worth $50 million and represented technology so advanced that its existence was known to fewer than 100 people in the entire US government. Their target was a communication relay station built into the cliffs near Wonsan, a facility that the NSA believed processed all of Kim Jong-un's most sensitive communications. Success would give American intelligence unprecedented access to North Korean failure would mean certain death and potentially trigger World War. This is exactly where the carefully planned operation began to unravel. As Ghost's team moved inland through the rocky Korean coastline, their encrypted communications system crackled with an urgent transmission from their submarine. Ghost Team, be advised, we're detecting multiple North Korean patrol boats converging on your position. Suggest immediate extraction. Ghost checked his tactical display. The nearest patrol boat was still 15 minutes away. They had time to complete the mission and extract if they moved fast, but something felt wrong. In 127 previous operations, Ghost had learned to trust his instincts, and right now, those instincts were screaming danger. Viper, something's not right, Ghost whispered into his headset. Those patrol boats are moving like they know exactly where we are. Lieutenant Commander Thompson studied his own tactical display. The North Korean boats weren't conducting a random patrol, they were moving in a coordinated search pattern that seemed to anticipate the SEAL team's planned route to the target facility. Could be coincidence, Thompson replied, but his voice carried doubt. We stick to the mission. Red Squadron doesn't abort for patrol boats. Well, you need to know what was really happening in Washington while the SEALs were in mortal danger at that exact moment. 6,000 miles away in the White House Situation Room, President Trump was receiving an encrypted briefing from CIA Director Gina Haspel and Secretary of Defense Mark Esper. The operation was being monitored in real time through satellite surveillance and submarine communications. But what the president didn't know was that someone in the room was simultaneously communicating with foreign intelligence services. Deputy National Security Advisor Charles Morrison, a career intelligence officer with impeccable credentials, was using an encrypted messaging app on his personal phone to transmit the CL team's exact coordinates to a contact in Chinese intelligence. Morrison had been a double agent for 3 years, recruited by Chinese operatives who had discovered his gambling debts and extramarital affairs. China, in turn, were sharing this intelligence with North Korea as part of a broader strategy to embarrass the United States and demonstrate that American special operations were not invincible. The Chinese had no intention of allowing the North Koreans to capture the SEALs alive. That would create too many diplomatic complications. Instead, they wanted a bloody confrontation that would force the US to admit to conducting illegal operations in North Korean waters. Morrison watched the satellite feed showing 8 tiny heat signatures moving across the North Korean coastline, knowing that he was about to condemn America's most elite warriors to death for the sake of his Chinese handlers and his own personal survival. The moment that changed everything for the SEALs on the ground. Ghost's team had covered half the distance to their target when their world exploded into chaos. A North Korean patrol boat emerged from behind a coastal rock formation with searchlights blazing, illuminating the SEALs in brilliant white light that destroyed their night vision advantage. But this wasn't a random patrol. The boat's crew was clearly expecting them, with heavy machine guns already trained on their position and tactical formations that indicated extensive training for exactly this scenario. Contact, contact, Ghost shouted into his radio as North Korean bullets began tearing up the rocky ground around them. We're compromised. Multiple hostiles with automatic weapons. The SEALs immediately moved into combat formation, using techniques perfected through years of urban warfare in Iraq and Afghanistan. But this was different. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting in enemy territory with no backup and no chance of rescue if things went wrong. Reaper found cover behind a boulder and began engaging the patrol boat with his suppressed rifle, each shot carefully aimed at the spotlight operators and machine gunners. Wolf and Hawk flanked left, trying to find a position where they could use their rocket-propelled grenades. Shadow and Blade moved right, attempting to flank the enemy position, but Ghost knew they were in a trap. The North Koreans had been waiting for them, and more enemy forces would be arriving soon. The impossible decision that would haunt them forever. Viper, we need to abort the mission, Ghost said, firing controlled bursts at the patrol boat while analyzing their tactical situation. This is a setup. Someone leaked our position. Thompson's response came through gritted teeth as he returned. Enemy fire, negative. We complete the mission. Red Squadron doesn't run from a fight. Sir, with respect, this isn't about running from a fight. This is about not walking into a meat grinder. That boat crew was ready for us. They knew exactly where and when we'd be here. The firefight intensified as more North Korean patrol boats appeared on the horizon, their searchlights sweeping the coastline in coordinated patterns. The SEALs were rapidly running out of time and ammunition. Gosk made a decision that went against every instinct in his special operations training. He was going to disobey a direct order from his team leader to save his men's lives. Or calcines, this is Ghost. Immediate tactical withdrawal to extraction point Alpha. Move now, Ghost. Belay that order. Thompson shouted, we have a mission to complete. But Ghost's team had worked together for 3 years, and they trusted their senior chief's judgment more than they feared disciplinary action. One by one, the SEALs began a fighting withdrawal toward their planned extraction point, using bounding overwatch techniques to provide cover for each other while maintaining continuous fire on the enemy. The battle that officially never happened. What occurred next would be studied in classified special operations schools for years, but never acknowledged publicly. 8 Navy SEALs fought a running gun battle across 2 miles of North Korean coastline against an enemy force that eventually numbered over 40 patrol boats and coastal defense units. The North Koreans had every advantage: numbers, firepower, knowledge of the terrain, and advance warning of the American operation. But they were facing the most elite warriors on the planet, men who had been trained since childhood to fight outnumbered and win. Reaper's sniper rifle spoke with deadly precision, eliminating searchlight operators and machine gunners at distances that should have been impossible in nighttime conditions. Wolf and Hawk used their remaining grenades to disable 2 patrol boats, sending them to the bottom of the Sea of Japan in fireballs that lit up the entire coastline. Ghost coordinated the withdrawal while simultaneously calling for emergency extraction on his encrypted satellite phone, but their submarine was under direct orders not to surface in North Korean waters unless the mission was completed successfully. You control. This is Ghost Team, mission compromised. Immediate extraction required. Ghost Team, negative on extraction. Complete your primary mission first. Ghost looked at his remaining ammunition, less than 100 rounds per man, and at the growing number of enemy lights on the horizon. Completing the mission would mean certain death for his entire team. Control, understand your last Ghost Team is initiating emergency extraction protocol. Authorization Ghost 77 Delta. Ghost 77 Delta was a classified code that allowed field commanders to override direct orders in situations where following those orders would result in the unnecessary loss of American lives. Using the code would trigger a full congressional investigation and probably end Ghost's career. But it would get his men home alive. The extraction that defied international law and common sense. What happened next violated so many international laws and military protocols that the Pentagon spent 3 years developing a cover story that could never be officially acknowledged. The USS Jimmy Carter, a classified nuclear submarine designed for special operations, surfaced in North Korean territorial waters under direct enemy fire to extract Ghost's team. The submarine's crew risked starting World War III to save 8 Navy SEALs, operating under the principle that America never leaves its warriors behind. The extraction took place under a barrage of North Korean artillery fire, with patrol boats converging from multiple directions. Ghost's team had to swim nearly a quarter-mile through enemy fire to reach the submarine, with several team members wounded and all of them running on pure adrenaline and determination. Reaper provided covering fire until his ammunition was completely exhausted, then swam to the submarine carrying 40 pounds of gear and a bullet wound in his left shoulder. Wolf and Hawk destroyed their remaining equipment with thermite grenades to prevent it from falling into enemy hands, creating explosions that were visible from orbit. Ghost was the last man to board the submarine, following the naval special warfare creed that leaders go first into danger and last to safety. As the Jimmy Carter crash dived to escape North Korean depth charges, Ghost counted his men and realized that something unprecedented had happened. Red Squadron had failed a mission for the first time in its operational history, the cover-up that went all the way to the White House. Within hours of the failed operation, the most sophisticated information warfare campaign in American history was launched to ensure that Operation Silent Ghost never officially existed. President Trump was briefed on the mission failure by Defense Secretary Esper, who recommended that the operation be classified at the highest possible level and that Congress not be notified under executive privilege provisions related to ongoing intelligence operations. But the real architect of the cover-up was Deputy National Security Advisor Charles Morrison, the same man who had betrayed the SEAL team to Chinese intelligence. Morrison now had to conceal not only the failed operation, but his own role in ensuring its failure. Morrison personally briefed the few congressional leaders who had security clearances high enough to know about SEAL Team 6 operations, telling them that the October 2019 mission had been a routine training exercise that was cancelled due to weather conditions. The congressman, trusting Morrison's 15-year track record in intelligence operations, accepted the explanation without demanding additional details. The 8 SEALs who had participated in the operation were quietly reassigned to different units, and warned that discussing the mission with anyone, including their families, would result in prosecution under the Espionage Act. Their service records were altered to show that they had been participating in training exercises in Nevada during the dates in question, the investigation that almost exposed everything. 6 months after the failed operation, Ghost received a call that changed his understanding of everything that had happened that night. It was from FBI Special Agent Sarah Chen, who was investigating Morrison's suspicious financial activities as part of a broader counterintelligence operation. Senior Chief Rodriguez, I need to ask you some questions about your activities in October 2019. Agent Chen said during their meeting at a secure facility in Virginia Beach. Ma'am, I'm not authorized to discuss classified operations without proper clearance verification. Agent Chen slid a folder across the table. I have TSSCI clearance and specific authorization to investigate potential security breaches related to SEAL Team 6 operations. I know about Operation Silent Ghost, and I know it didn't fail because of bad luck. Over the next 3 hours, Agent Chen laid out evidence that Morrison had been systematically betraying American intelligence operations to Chinese handlers for 3 years. The October 2019 North Korea operation was just one of dozens of missions that had been compromised, resulting in the deaths of American assets and the failure of operations that had cost hundreds of millions of dollars to plan and execute. Ghost realized that his instincts had been correct that night on the North Korean coastline. His team hadn't failed, they had been betrayed by someone in the highest levels of American government. The justice that came too late for some, but not too late for truth. Morrison's arrest 6 months later was kept classified to protect ongoing counterintelligence operations, but Ghost was quietly informed that his decision to abort the North Korea mission had been vindicated. Morrison had planned for the entire SEAL team to be killed or captured, providing China with a propaganda victory and eliminating witnesses to his treason. By trusting his instincts and disobeying direct orders, Ghost had not only saved 8 American lives, but had preserved operational security for dozens of other classified programs that Morrison would have continued to betray. Morrison was eventually convicted in a secret court-martial and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the damage he had caused would take years to fully assess, and some of the operations he had betrayed would never be acknowledged publicly. The recognition that could never be given publicly. 2 years after Operation Silent Ghost, Ghost received a call from Admiral William McRaven, the former commander of Joint Special Operations Command who had overseen the bin Laden raid. Senior Chief, I'm calling to inform you that your actions during a certain operation in October 2019 have been reviewed at the highest levels of government. While we cannot publicly acknowledge what happened, I want you to know that your under impossible circumstances exemplified the highest traditions of naval special warfare. Ghost was quietly awarded a second Navy Cross for extraordinary heroism during classified operations, but the citation contained no details that would reveal the true nature of his actions. His teammates received similar recognition, and all 8 men were promoted ahead of their peers. But the recognition that meant the most to Ghost came from his teammates themselves. 6 months after Morrison's conviction, the 8 members of Red Squadron who had participated in Operation Silent Ghost held a private reunion at a cabin in the mountains of Colorado. To Ghost, said Lieutenant Commander Thompson, raising a beer in toast, for having the balls to tell a lieutenant commander he was wrong, and the wisdom to save our asses when following orders would have killed us all. The legacy of a mission that never happened. Today, Operation Silent Ghost is studied in classified military colleges as an example of how field commanders must sometimes choose between following orders and preserving American lives. The case is presented hypothetically with all identifying details removed, but the lessons are clear. Blind obedience to authority can be as dangerous as insubordination. Navy to work as a contractor training the next generation of special operations personnel. He never discussed Operation Silent Ghost publicly, but his training programs emphasized the importance of tactical decision-making under pressure and the responsibility of senior enlisted personnel to question orders that don't make sense. That surveillance equipment that was supposed to be planted in North Korea was eventually installed through a different operation using unmanned systems, providing the intelligence that the original mission had been designed to gather. But the cost, in terms of blown covers, compromised operations, and lost American lives, would never be fully calculated. The truth that governments don't want you to know. Charles Morrison's betrayal represented one of the most damaging intelligence breaches in American history. But because of the classified nature of the operations he compromised, the public was never informed of the full scope of his treachery. Dozens of operations were blown, millions of dollars in equipment was lost, and American assets around the world had to be extracted or relocated to prevent their execution by foreign intelligence services. But Morrison's treason also demonstrated something important about the men and women who serve in America's Special Operations Forces. They are not just unthinking automatons who follow orders without question. They are intelligent, experienced professionals who understand that their primary loyalty is to the Constitution and the American people, not to individual commanders who may have lost their way. Ghost's decision to abort Operation Silent Ghost saved 8 American lives and preserved operational security for dozens of other missions. More importantly, it proved that the true strength of American special operations lies not in blind obedience to authority, but in the judgment and integrity of the warriors who carry out the most dangerous missions on Earth. The operation that officially never happened, but changed everything. As Ghost tells his students today in his classified training programs, the hardest part about being a special operator isn't learning to follow orders, it's learning when not to follow them. Sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is have the courage to say no when saying yes would get good people killed for bad reasons. Operation Silent Ghost remains classified at the highest levels of government, but its lessons continue to influence how America trains and deploys its most elite warriors. The mission that failed became a template for success, not because it achieved its objectives, but because it proved that American special operations personnel have the wisdom and courage to make the right decisions, even when those decisions contradict direct orders from superior officers. In the end, That may be the most important victory of all. The knowledge that America's warriors serve the Constitution and the American people, not the political ambitions of individual leaders who may not understand the true cost of the missions they order. 8 men of Red Squadron who participated in Operation Silent Ghost went on to distinguished careers in military and civilian life. But they never forgot the night when trusting their instincts and disobeying orders saved their lives and preserved their honor. Some operations succeed by accomplishing their objectives. Others succeed by avoiding catastrophic failure when the objectives themselves are based on flawed intelligence or compromised by enemy action. Operation Silent Ghost was the latter kind of success, the kind that never gets medals or recognition, but saves lives and preserves the integrity of the forces that protect American freedom. And sometimes, that's the most important kind of victory there is.